Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in the Bryan Kohberger case. This case, the hearing that just happened last month, but we have the judge unsealed transcripts. I'm going to just bring you the highlights of it, so not so super secret. We're going to talk about the 175-page redacted transcript, but I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just going to go through the highlights of it. We're going to talk about Officer Brett Payne, and we're going to talk about new information from Steve Goncalves. What was Bryan Kohberger really doing when he was arrested? I was very interested in this. We're going to talk about blue snarfing. Will this exonerate Bryan Kohberger? Would this implicate Bryan Kohberger? And then we're going to check about roommate Dylan and some new information on her and Bryan Kohberger's warrant. Does Bryan Kohberger have two brothers that we don't know about? Let's get into it. We have a lot to dig into. I have a great show. And then after this, I'm going straight into the Sebastian Rogers case. So please stay with me.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
So come on. Subscribing is free and it helps me out a lot. I can't get to 40,000 subscribers without your help. Okay, let's dig in because we've got a lot of stuff to get into. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm glad you guys are here. Let's get started. Okay, so my name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I can't get to 40,000 subscribers without your help. And give this video a thumbs up. Everything I'm sharing with you, allow me to CYA myself, is my opinion. And please feel free to do your own research. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank you to our subscribers, to our mods, and our channel members. Our channel members are the ones with the blue, green, and red verified check marks. And then our mods are the ones with the wrenches. So Ada County Judge unsealed 175-page partially redacted transcript of the closed door, super secret, as Ann Taylor was calling it, hearing, which Bryan Kohberger's defense team tried to undermine the credibility of the IgG, that's investigative genetic genealogy, DNA. And this is what, led to some of the probable cause warrants. So you can understand why Ann Taylor was trying to get this thrown out. Now, Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty. And I do have to talk about this case in terms of him, though, because he's the one coming up to be on trial this summer. And jury selection starts July 30th. And Ann Taylor is the one, who has filed these motions. And then that's who, Detective Brett Payne is talking about it. So I do have to talk about this case in terms of him, but I do know that he has the right to be presumed innocent. So we're going to talk about Dylan, and we're going to talk about what Bryan Kohberger was really doing when he was arrested, and new information from Steve Goncalves. But first, I want to talk about Moscow Police Detective Brett Payne. Now, the lead investigator, he testified that the IgG was merely a tip and that authorities had dug up more information that they see links Bryan Kohberger to the case. Officer Brett Payne, this is from this super secret hearing transcript, okay? He said, quote, "We made that decision in an effort to independently verify the information that was provided to us as a tip from the FBI in much the same way we would any other tip in law enforcement. So it was not meant in any way to obfuscate any sort of information. It was simply, we can validate Mr. Kohberger's involvement in can we validate Mr. Kohberger's involvement in this incident or not? That was it." Now, the redacted information also revealed the identity of the housemate. We already knew that it was Dylan Mortensen who witnessed the man dressed all in black with a mask covering his face with bushy eyebrows, who was 6 feet tall or bigger, athletic but not muscular. Now, she stated that she overheard signs of a struggle. So let's talk about whether or not Bryan Kohberger has two brothers. that we don't know about. Let me take this down for a second and let me pull this up. Hold on one second. Oh, this came off of Fox News, and of course, they're not letting me share this content. Okay, I will have to tell it to you then. All right, that's fine. Let me. Oh, wait, maybe I can share this. Hold on. Hold on, hold on. Okay, it looks like I'm being able to share this. Okay, good. All right, so nope, they won't let me share the article. Okay, so let me just share with you what they said. You will have to get a subscription to Fox News. I understand why they don't want all their news being shared on your YouTube channel. It hurts their ability to get subscribers. So does Bryan Kohberger have two brothers that we don't know about? Also, they're the names of the two brothers. The names of two brothers were identified as potential relatives of BK. Now, I don't know if this is a misprint by Fox News. I wasn't able to find any other sourcing on this, or if these are brothers of Michael Kohberger, and that maybe they just didn't they misunderstood. But according to what Fox News is reporting, the identity of brothers and other distant relatives are subject to a prior gag order. So remember, the gag order was put in place by the defense attorney to protect Bryan, that's Ann Taylor, to protect Bryan's right to a fair trial. So I'm wondering, does Bryan Kohberger have brothers? Like, was one of his parents married before? Or is this Michael Kohberger and this was just simply a misprint in Fox News? I was trying to see if I could find any other sourcing. I looked for over an hour today to try to find any other sourcing that Bryan Kohberger has brothers, because we've only heard about the sisters. I could not find any other sources. So I'm sharing that with you and so I would take that with a pinch of salt, because it could have just been a misstatement. We also learned that Matthew Gamet, now he's the director of the Idaho State Police Forensics Services Crime Lab, and he testified that the Othram Lab urging the ISB detective to reach out to one of these brothers. And I'm wondering if this is Bryan Kohberger's brothers, or if this is maybe Michael Kohberger's brothers, but they're talking about this in terms of the brothers, and asked him to submit his DNA to a database that law enforcement would be allowed to search. The unidentified man, we don't know who this is, at first doubted the detective's identity, and then later refused to cooperate. He told the police not to contact him again. Now, by December 10th of 2022, the FBI stepped in. 9 days later, the FBI shared Bryan Kohberger's name with Detective Payne. So we're going to talk about what Bryan Kohberger was really doing when he got arrested in just a moment. So please stay with me. But I do think it's very, very interesting to find out about this potential brother of somebody. I just don't know who the brother is. Uh, I'm thinking this must be Michael, and maybe they've misunderstood when they were reading the transcript. Um, but anyway, that was reported out by Fox News. I wanted to show it to you. But let me keep going, because I have so much stuff to dig into. I'm just going to try to get through this, whip through a bunch of this, because I won't have to talk about Dylan. We're going to talk about what Bryan Kohberger was really doing when he was arrested. It's not what we thought. And we're going to continue to get new information on this case as we get closer and closer to trial. I'm also going to talk about Steve Goncalves' latest statements and blue snarfing. Will this exonerate Bryan Kohberger? Will this implicate Bryan Kohberger? So defense team expert, this is Dr. Leah Larkin, she's a genetic genealogist, testified in this closed door hearing. So we're going to go back to the Ann Taylor super secret hearing, that based on her review of discovery documents, she believes that someone at the FBI violated internal policy. So this is what we were not allowed to hear. And the judge said he gave the transcripts of the hearing, because Ann Taylor was characterizing this all as super secret. So the judge said, that's fine. I'll release the transcripts of the hearing, and defense team and prosecution, you guys can redact what you want out of it. So I'm just going to give you the highlights of what we learned about this hearing, rather than go through and try to read all 170 180 pages of it. So the defense was claiming in this super secret hearing that the FBI violated internal policy in terms of service of one or more of the genetic genealogy databases that led law enforcement to Bryan Kohberger. Now, Dr. Larkin testified on behalf of the defense. She said, quote, "I believe we asked them to turn over the match list, and they were like, oh, we can't turn over the whole match list because it was 20,000 people." And that actually right there was a big tip off. If only they had used GEDmatch Pro or only used Family Tree DNA, I think at the most they could have gotten around 10,000 people. So that right there tipped me off that they were in a database that they should not have been able to. And through Dr. Larkin was also claiming in this secret hearing, this is Ann Taylor's words of claiming this was all super secret, not me, that because of course she wants this release because she's got her expert testifying to this. Dr. Larkin also claimed that the FBI, quote, admitted to using MyHeritage and GED match without the pro databases law enforcement isn't supposed to search. Now, the FBI did not respond to Fox News for a comment. However, the judge, this is our judge from our new Ada County judge, we're going to call him Judge Hip because saying his whole name comes out as a 1930s, 1940s dictator that started a world war. So I don't want that conflated to the algorithm. So the judge rejected the defense motion. So to have this IgG evidence tossed out, finding, quote, that nothing the FBI did violated Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights. So to be clear, the judge said the FBI did not, I repeat, did not violate Bryan Kohberger's rights like Dr. Larkin was claiming and ruled against Ann Taylor and the defense team's motion. So during a two-day public proceeding that followed the closed door hearing, we saw Ann Taylor arguing that the FBI had violated Bryan Kohberger's Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches and seizures. And we're going to talk about what Bryan Kohberger was really doing when he was arrested. We're going to talk about blue snarfing, and we're going to talk about Steve Goncalves and his latest statements in just a moment. So please stay with me. But I just want to give you the overview so you don't have to read through 170, 180 pages worth of documents. So the Idaho State Police and Othram Laboratories were not able to generate leads from the DNA sample. However, according to Officer Brett Payne, he testified during this closed hearing that the FBI had stepped in with its own resources and supplied Bryan Kohberger's name as a tip to be investigated on December 19th of 2022. So that's just 11 days before Bryan Kohberger was arrested at his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home. Now, we learned new stuff too about what he was doing when he was arrested and where he was arrested. So this is new. We're going to talk about that in a second. But on multiple occasions, Ann Taylor, that's the defense team attorney, attempted to question witnesses in this closed door hearing about topics outside of the IgG DNA, but the judge repeatedly sustained objections from the prosecutors. So this was interesting, who noted that the hearing was supposed to be solely dedicated to the IgG. So it sounds like she tried to get other things in. The fact that she was characterizing these as being super secret because this hearing was held behind closed doors, I think did annoy the judge, in my opinion. And I think that's why he went ahead and put his rulings out first, and he ruled against Ann Taylor in multiple motions that she had made before the court, and then released the transcripts of the hearing to give both the defense and the prosecution 2 weeks to redact anything they didn't want made public to us. Now, the judge ruled that Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights were not, I repeat, were not violated, and that the police behaved properly. So this isn't me saying this. This isn't Ann Taylor saying this. This isn't the prosecution. This is the judge. So the judge said that the evidence investigators obtained throughout the investigation led them to Bryan Kohberger. It was not tainted, and it will be admitted at trial. So for those of you that who have been mistakenly told that there was no evidence, I'm just telling you that there were 13 motions filed by Ann Taylor and motions, her motions are being ruled on by the judge regarding evidence. So there is evidence, and I don't think the prosecution would be going for a capital punishment case if there wasn't evidence. So here's what the judge wrote. He wrote, quote, "The court finds suppression is not warranted on any of these issues." On the critical DNA evidence, the judge wrote, BK's lawyers, so that's Ann Taylor and her other lawyers, quote, "failed to demonstrate his constitutional rights were violated by detectives' use of the controversial new technique known as investigative genealogy. We know this as IGG, which involves building out a family tree to hone in on a suspect." So I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said the use of genetic genealogy helped point investigators in the direction of their suspect. So that's Bryan Kohberger, using the DNA taken from a button snap on the sheath of the knife found at the crime scene. This sample was critical, police said, in cracking the case and later shown to be a statistical match. Now, the statistical match is not from the IGG. The statistical match came from a warrant, a court order where they got a cheek swab from Bryan Kohberger that was ultimately matched to the DNA found on the inside snap of the knife sheath found underneath and to the side of Maddie. That was a statistical match, almost to the point where it couldn't be anybody else on the planet. So we're going to talk about what Bryan Kohberger was really doing when he was arrested and Steve Goncalves' latest statements, but I want to go to the affidavit and read exactly what it says. And because this is all going to make sense. So let me share this with you and move myself out of the way. Let me take this down. Let me add this. Okay. So hopefully you guys can read this. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. I am going to say hi to chat. I just want to, let me see if I can make this bigger and not block it. Okay. That's better. All right. We're not going to read the whole thing. We're just going to go down to page 18. Because, I mean, you guys can look this up and read through the whole thing if you want to. All right. We're on 19. Let me go back up. Okay. So I told you guys that I thought it was weird that Bryan Kohberger had gone down to Clarkston, Washington, adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe, showed a white Hyundai Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 drive past Kate's Cup of Joe. So this was at around 12:46 p.m. on the day of that the crimes were reported to law enforcement. So we have BK's phone pinging at the crime scene, and then later he drives over to Clarkston, which is nowhere near Pullman, Washington. So he goes to this Albertsons, and I told you I thought it was because of that big reservation that's nearby. They watched him walk in at 12:49 p.m. and then interior surveillance cameras showed Bryan Kohberger walking through the store, purchasing, we don't know what items. It says unknown items at checkout, and leaving at approximately 1:04. So I don't know what he purchased. We'll find out at the trial. But it is like way out of the way for him to have gone to Clarkston that day. So let's continue on. So, and because I'm going to tie this all together. So we have the analysis records of the 8458 phone. So that would be Bryan Kohberger's phone pinging and then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. So I think that's interesting. So then we talk about the trash. Okay, so and then we're going to dig into the next part. On December 27th of 2022, Pennsylvania evidence recovered the trash from Bryan Kohberger's family residence, so that's his parents' house in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. So this is why I'm wondering if the brothers aren't Bryan Kohberger's brothers, but actually Michael's brothers. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. So judge ruled that authorities did not act improperly collecting trash from Bryan Kohberger's parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home because once something is thrown in the garbage, it's considered abandoned. And law enforcement was able to collect Michael Kohberger, that's Brian's father's DNA, and match that with BK's cheek swab, which was later collected. So what I'm wondering if the brothers are not Brian Kohberger's brothers, unless one of his parents had kids separate from Brian Kohberger. I guess that's possible. But I'm wondering if they match to a brother of Michael Kohberger. Now, Michael Kohberger has never said he didn't want law enforcement to use his DNA. So he just doesn't want to be involved. So we're going to talk about what Brian Kohberger was really doing when he was arrested. And then we're going to talk about Steve Goncalves's latest statement, because Ann Taylor was also talking about the way Brian Kohberger was arrested. She said it was unnecessary. She described it as unnecessarily aggressive. And the judge explained a detailed timeline and dismissed the issues raised by Ann Taylor and her defense team. The judge stated, quote, law enforcement believed, he's talking about Brian Kohberger here, was potentially destroying evidence from a vehicle that was related to the crimes. He didn't say crimes, he used the H word, doing away with someone. And they also knew he had a Glock handgun, quote, prompting a concern over officer safety that prompted them to descend on the home more swiftly and make the arrest without incident in a bedroom. Okay, so we've always been told that Brian Kohberger was arrested in the kitchen. Now we're finding out that he was arrested in the bedroom. So in reading through the judge's decision, it does sound like he was ultimately arrested in his bedroom, but not the kitchen. So where did the kitchen come from? Well, let's dig into this a little bit more. So so this is where the kitchen came from, and Brian wearing gloves in the kitchen. So I'm wondering if when law enforcement came in, he made a beeline to the bedroom. That's what I think happened. But we won't know for sure until the trial. So we're going to dig into. So he wasn't arrested in the kitchen. So that came out on the hearing. So let's dig into this a little bit more because we can learn more from what the judge said. I'm paraphrasing. Again, I'm condensing 179, 180 pages into just like the most important bites or nuggets. So while monitoring the home at 12:33 a.m., the night of his arrest, snipers, quote, observed a kitchen light turn on and saw a taller, young white male wearing a black hoodie standing near the sliding glass door leading out to the deck, whom they were later able to identify as Brian Kohberger. About 20 minutes later, the light came on in the garage, and the, quote, lights flashed in the garage as if the vehicle was being locked or unlocked by a key fob. A few minutes later, Brian Kohberger was seen in the kitchen of the home. So this is where they were observing him with, the snipers. This is probably through a sniper rifle, if you think about it. Could have been binoculars, but I wonder if it was like, if they had, if snipers were there, and this is who we're getting this from. Okay, so a few minutes later, Kohberger was seen in the kitchen of the home. This time, he's wearing rubber gloves and handling plastic baggies, the judge wrote. So this is coming from the judge, Judge Hip. I know what his real name is, but I'm just paraphrasing, condensing it. That's what we're going to nickname him. Quote, it was 1:09 a.m. in the morning, a time when most people would not be removing items from their car with rubber gloves. This is what the judge said, not what Ann Taylor said, not what the prosecution said. This is what the judge said. So I think the fact that Brian Kohberger was wearing gloves inside the house, and this is happening at 1 a.m., and even the judge is characterizing this as most people would not be removing items from their car with rubber gloves on. So that gives us some clues as to how he was arrested and what was really going on. And you'll recall also, because a lot of you guys have asked me, why would Brian Kohberger use his own car? Well, you will recall that Brian Kohberger received a new license plate for his Elantra 5 days after the crimes. And the affidavit said, citing records from the Washington State Department of Licensing. So a lot of you guys have asked me in the comment section why I thought he would drive his own car. I think it would have been easier for him to, if he had borrowed a car, he wouldn't have been able to maintain control of the vehicle. So he wouldn't have been able to meticulously clean that car and we're learning now from the judge that he was, in and out of the car, that lights were flashing in the garage and that he was wearing gloves and he seemed to be doing something with the car. And we've also heard that law enforcement who were surveilling him, that they were watching him meticulously clean the car. So I want to talk about blue snarfing, and then I want to share with you, can this exonerate or implicate Bryan Kohberger? And I want to share with you Steve Goncalves's latest statement. But let's dig into this next. Let me grab this. And I am going to check in with chat. So I hope you guys bring me your questions. Come on up and talk to me. So we're going to talk about blue snarfing. This is not something I touched on it a little bit last year, but I think it's going to come into play during the trial. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. Let me just for the count. Okay, let me just check in with chat. I do want to definitely be social for social media. So come on in, you guys. Bring me your questions, and I want to hear what you guys think about all of this. Hey, Sirius. Okay, so come on in, and I'm going to share with you. We're going to talk about Dylan. We're going to talk about Steve Goncalves. I got some more stuff that I gleaned. So I went through the 170, 180 plus pages. So you guys didn't have to. Hi, Leslie. All right. And Njaz is one of our head mods. Kellyanne wants to free Bryan Kohberger. I don't think that's going to happen, Kelly, because we have this. They're not going to let somebody out on bail. They're not going to let somebody else out on bail that's been accused of this. And I do think there's a lot of evidence. We just haven't seen it all yet. But we'll see. Maybe he will walk free. Ann Taylor is a great lawyer, but I do think she has a hard road ahead. I don't want to mislead you guys. Hi, Beth. And please don't hate the messenger. We're not going to agree on every single case. Okay. And a year from now, we're going to be covering a completely different case. So please don't hate the messenger. I'm bringing you guys all of the information. This is a Critical Thinkers channel. I'm bringing you guys all of the information on this case so you can make up your own mind. I'm not telling you what you should believe and what you shouldn't believe. So, just know that. Hey, Florence. Leslie's here. Regina, hi, come on in. Good to see you. Hi, Top Cat. Hi, Donna. So I do want to be social. This is interactive. And after this, and here's our other head mod. This is Six Sense Amelia. After this, we are going to be diving into the Sebastian Rogers case. I'm going to log out on this live stream and go into another one once I'm done. But I still have a lot. It's 170, 180 pages. So you're going to have to, we're going to go, we have more to go through. Thank you so much. This is our head mod. And Jazz, yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Hi, Dabs. Give this a thumbs up on your way in. Hi, Brian R. Thank you for smashing that like button. Put your DNA on the like button. Mike is here. We're going to have a great discussion. We have a lot of good people in the chat today. Holly's here. Let's see. Top Cat is here. Yeah, all we know is, okay, so this might have been, they didn't, like whoever wrote this article didn't understand and just put in Kohberger brothers. And maybe they're referring to brothers that his father could have had from another marriage or his mother could have had, but I don't think so. I'm like just in more that I'm like mulling this over and thinking about this. When I first read it today, I was like, oh my gosh, and I tried to find other sourcing to back it up. I couldn't find anything. So what I'm wondering is if it's just they conflated brothers and just didn't realize that it would read as it being Bryan Kohberger brothers instead of Michael Kohberger's brothers. So I'm wondering if Michael has brothers. We won't find out till the trial, though. Yeah, as far as I know, Top Cat, he has two sisters. I have never heard of brothers. Megal says Kopaka has brothers. He has brothers, but I have not been able to find any evidence. And I have looked, you guys, you can go back. I've made probably 135, 140 videos on this case, and you can go look at the deep dives I did into Brent Kopaka. I don't want to mislead you. I know I could get more clicks if I told you there were tunnels under the house and that, Brent Kopaka did it. But I don't want to mislead you. I have not been able to find any evidence that supports Brent Kohberger being involved in this at all. So I just do want to share that. You're welcome to go look at the videos where I did investigate it. They probably are from a year and a half, 2 years ago. Just type in reporter room and Brent Kohberger. They should pop up. No, just two sisters. Brent had brothers. Thank you for that, Dolores. This is our other head mod. This is Mike. KB's here. Claire, they are distant relatives. Yeah, or maybe just brothers of Michael Kohberger. But yeah, distant relatives is how is. So I don't know whose brothers they are, but it's definitely paternal because the last name is Kohberger. Yeah, I don't think Brent has anything to do with that. I hope I've answered your questions on that. If I did, I would absolutely bring it to you. I did investigate it because so many people were asking me about it, but I was not able to find connection. So I know I could get more clicks and views if I said there was tunnels under the house. Of course, when the house got torn down, that was not true. I could get more clicks and views if I told you Brent Kohberger was involved and that the roommates were involved. I know I could get more clicks and views on that, but I just feel like you guys deserve the truth. You deserve all of the facts so you can decide for yourselves of what you think. So if there, yeah, Mike thinks BK had two sisters. If there were any brothers, it would be other relatives. I'm wondering that too. And maybe the reporter that wrote the article wasn't as familiar with the case. Beth said, maybe he has brothers no one knew about. That's possible too. What slander, Kellyanne? Claire said brothers' DNA was a distant match. Sarah says, everyone, welcome everybody to Reporter Room. So she is. Thank you so much to our mods. Kami said, I'm pretty sure if Brent had something to do with this, with his name, it would have been brought up by the defense. Nothing from them, just stargazing. Yeah, I mean, we'll find out at the trial. I agree with that. I think if Brent Kohberger was related to this, I would have found something. I can't find anything other than they both worked at Washington State University to connect. And a lot of people worked at Washington State that connect Bryan Kohberger with Brent Kohberger. I know a lot of people have, made conspiracy videos about it. I did look into it because I thought, maybe. But in my opinion, I think that Bryan Kohberger did act alone. He was a loner from everything I've been able to find out. If anything new comes to light, though, I promise you I will bring it to you. I just want to bring you all the information so you guys can make up your own mind. Thank you so much, Brother Mike, for your super sticker. Thank you so much. And thank you to NJAS for the gifted Reporter Room membership. Wow, that's really nice, you guys. That's really nice. Who got the gifted membership? Really love to know who got that. Super secret. Yeah, that was Ann Taylor's characterizing of this hearing because the judge sealed it. Of course, she wanted the cameras to see it because she wanted everybody to hear about the IGG. But what the judge feels like, I think he doesn't want to be overturned on appeal for putting something out there because he doesn't know what's going to get said by the prosecution. He can't predict what a witness is going to say or not say. So, he sealed it and then released the transcripts, giving the defense and prosecution a chance to redact what they wanted. Mike says some people in YouTube land think the IGG doesn't lead to Bryan Kohberger because the story about the brothers, they're not using the IGG. You're right, exactly. The IGG, the brothers, it is interesting that that they've said that they've had brothers, but I'm wondering if it isn't Michael Kohberger's brothers. I don't know. As if I find out more, I'll bring it to you. Yeah, please. Thank you, Brother Mike, for giving us a thumbs up, you guys. This is our other head mods. So we've got our three head mods, Brother Mike, Amelia, and Jazz are all here. So thank you. And thank you to all of our mods. Yeah, whoever received the membership from MJAZ, let me know who it is. So I can welcome you and also so we can thank her. Yeah, I'm getting a new computer with any of the super chats. I am not putting those in my pocket. I'm putting that toward the channel. So, and I've been doing this for the last few months. Any super chats or super stickers or anything like that is going to a new computer. I've started shopping for one. I'm just waiting for the prices, post the holidays to come down a little bit. I think beginning of March, they should come down. Hi, Sue Joy. All right, so let's keep going. I do want to please bring me your questions. Mike said I bet when they did his first interview, they showed him pictures after asking where he was that night. At that point, it probably is when, because Ann Taylor, whatever he said to law enforcement, Ann Taylor does not want it in. That was one of her motions that she filed to not let that come in. But ultimately, it did come in. It did come in. Okay, so I want to talk about blue snarfing, and then I want to dig into Steve Goncalves' latest statement, and then some more things that we learned about Dylan from this hearing. So please stay with me. I'm not ending by any means. It's 180 pages, so there's a lot to go through. But I do want to say thank you to our producers, NJazz, Sasha Angel, Mikey M, George Brown, and Pepper. Thank you to our channel members. If you would like your name to appear like this in the live streams and have a check mark next to your name, if you see people with blue, red check marks, green check marks, those are all channel members. And thank you so much. And we have regular members only live streams. We'll be doing one again later this week. So thank you to our channel members. Thank you to NJazz for gifting so many memberships. She's been almost doing a membership at everything. And thank you. So this is super thanks through Sunday and coffee gratitude. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships. All right, let's keep going because there's a lot of new information. Let me move myself out of the way. Okay, so I want to talk about blue snarfing because I think that this is something that could either exonerate him, and I do think this is going to come up in the trial. So I want, when this does come up, you guys are going to know what it is because we've gone through it. Let me grab a sip of water. So blue snarfing is a hacking technique. Now remember, Bryan Kohberger applied for a job in Washington, in the state of Washington, to work for the police department there in Pullman, and he wanted to teach them how to solve crimes using internet technology. Now, for whatever reason, it may be that his background of having stolen that cell phone, or maybe having, something to do with his medication addictions, or maybe he failed the psych test. For whatever reason, they opted not to hire him. So I believe that this may come into play during the trial. So it's a hacking technique. So I do believe that there's a reason that Kaylee's Bluetooth was kept and why we have these warrants that I went through in last week's live streams for Apple. Okay. So blue snarfing is a hacking technique when a hacker accesses a wireless device through a Bluetooth connection. Kaylee had a Bluetooth. So I believe that Bryan Kohberger was not just sitting in the back parking lot looking through Maddie's windows. This is, speculation warning. I believe that the suspect, the perpetrator, because Bryan is innocent until proven guilty, I believe that the suspect was also logging in, because even though he wasn't stalking them, right? Because in stalking in Idaho, for stalking statute to fit, the victims had to be aware of it. They had to feel harassed or threatened in some way. So even though the stalking statute does not apply, I believe, in my opinion, speculation here, that Bryan Kohberger was accessing their pictures and photos and images through what's called blue snarfing. It's not hard to do. So what makes the Bluetooth vulnerable? It's Bluetooth is just and you could be aware of this for your own protection too. Bluetooth is a high-speed wireless device, and most Bluetooth-enabled devices have a maximum connectivity range of about 30 feet. So again, that parking lot that sat behind the 1122 King Road house would have been a good vantage into Maddie's room, but it also would have been an opportunity to go in. I think there's a reason he had his phone with him that night, even though he switched it off allegedly for the crimes. So Bluetooth frequencies are generally safe from hacking because Bluetooth waves are constantly switching frequencies, sometimes 100 times per second. And this is called frequency hopping. But it's not completely hacker safe. And Bluetooth enabled devices are vulnerable to many kinds of attacks, including blue snarfing. So they're able to stage blue snarfing by exploiting the vulnerabilities of what's called an object exchange application. So I don't want to get too wonky here. I just want to just go over it a little bit. But basically, simply put, let me just make it easy. Simply put, these OBEX to communicate with each other, that's the push-pull application. So the protocol is open, which means that there's no authentication policy in place. Sorry about that. To use a device, so they don't need a PIN to get into it. So it makes it very easy for blue snarfing attacks. So although it has a very limited operating range, a hacker can conduct blue snarfing from as little as 30 feet to 300 feet away from an unsuspecting victim. So this is why I told you I also thought that there was going to be this handshake. The geofencing, which we saw in the Delphi case, was also going to be raised. So this could either exonerate Bryan Kohberger if Ann Taylor can prove somebody else was hacking it, or it could implicate him. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. So we're going to talk about, let me make sure. Okay. So Steve Gonzalez appeared and he had some things to say too. And then we're going to talk about Dylan in just a second. So please stay with me. Okay, let's go into this next. I have so much stuff to get through. I have pages and pages because it's so much. So we know from NewsNation that a letter was given to Bryan Kohberger before he was terminated, right? Because people have asked me also, what was his motive? No motive. And you can, but we know from NewsNation that a letter was given to Bryan Kohberger before he was terminated, that he did have a, quote, sexist attitude, end quote, toward women he interacted with at the university. He was, quote, rude to women and graded them differently than the men. There was a complaint made against him. The letter also reportedly detailed a timeline, and this timeline is very interesting. It's very interesting because it talks about the events leading up to Bryan Kohberger's, starting with an altercation, alleged altercation with a professor on September 23rd. So this is just weeks when he's into this job. And NewsNation the letter states that Bryan Kohberger and his professor met on October 3rd to discuss his professional behavior. So you can see they're trying to work with him. They're trying to get him on track. But the professor, here we are now, almost 3 weeks later, emailed Bryan Kohberger on October 21st. Now, this date is interesting to me. He told him on October 21st that Bryan Kohberger had, quote, failed to meet the expectations set out in a meeting earlier that month. So that would have been the October 3rd meeting. Now, I've shared with you in the past that the October 21st date is interesting. I think Bryan Kohberger would have been enraged to find out that he was, quote, failing. And that is the date that Buddy the dog disappeared from inside his own yard. Now, this was a short walk from the 1122 King Road residence. And, we know what happened to Buddy. I'm not going to go into it. And then they met again on November this 12th to discuss an improvement plan. Another meeting was held on December 7th to talk about how the plan was going. But I don't think it was going well because on December 9th, Bryan Kohberger got into a second altercation with his professor. Now, remember, these crimes were committed on November 13th. So the day before, November 12th, I think they discussed an improvement plan. So again, we know these crimes happened in the wee hours of November 13th. So was he enraged after talking about this improvement plan? Because and was is the November 21st date related to Buddy the dog? Was he enraged on that day too? And November 13th related back to the November 12th meeting with this professor. So ultimately, Bryan Kohberger ended up being terminated after having a second altercation. Now, altercation is more than an argument and less than a physical fight. So that was December 9th. He was officially terminated 10 days later on December 19th. So let's listen into what Steve Gonzalez had to say. Hi, Shelley. Hi, Lenora. Welcome. And I saw Tara in the chat too. Where did I see you? I saw you. There you are. Hey, Tara. Good. I'm glad you're here. So come on in, guys. Claire says that most people would be in bed at that time of the day. Mike said he was seen in the kitchen with gloves on and they moved in. Right. So he was arrested in the bedroom. So it sounds like Bryan Kohberger was seen in the kitchen when they had their, I'm assuming that this is through like a scope. I mean, maybe they had binoculars, but this was reported out as what the snipers saw. So they would have been sitting there with their pew, right, looking through a scope. I'm watching my words in case you have little ones in the room. So yeah, he was seen in the kitchen with gloves on, and then as they came in, they caught him in the bedroom. So it sounds like he may not have known, to be fair to Bryan Kohberger, he might have just been absolutely terrified and just run into the bedroom because he didn't know what was happening. On the other hand, he might have been suspicious after those 2 traffic stops that he and his dad got for tailgating that were back to back. And I showed you guys the enhanced photos I did of his cheek and his wrists in the last live stream. Diane says, you really put a lot of work into your reporting. Thank you so much, Diane. I really try. I know I could probably get more people in here if I would like tell you guys, that there were tunnels under the house and tell you guys that Bryan Kohberger was involved. I know that gets clicks and views, but I feel like you guys deserve to have the truth. I respect you. I respect my subscribers and channel members and mods way too much to just, I do some speculation, but it's generally based in information that we actually have, not just pure speculation. So anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Diane. That you made my day. Brian thinks it was Kohberger's brothers. No, it didn't say that. It said Kohberger, not Kohberger. Shelley said drones too, possibly. Yeah. So they must have been looking down the barrel of this, right? And he ran from the kitchen into the bedroom, because where they arrested him, I had always heard that he was arrested wearing gloves in the kitchen. He was wearing gloves, but he was seen in the kitchen like moments before the snipers and all of the law enforcement came busting into the house, but he ran to the bedroom. So was he going for the Glock? Did he have, where was the Glock when they arrested him? We don't know yet. Yeah, very strange behavior. That's what the judge felt like too. The judge felt like the fact that he was up at 1 a.m, getting things out of his car, wearing gloves was odd. Holly says, hip hip reminds me of a song, Islands in the Sun. Aw. No victim blaming, no disrespect to fallen veterans. Yeah, I mean, please. Bryan Kohberger, he was a veteran. He served our nation. I hate what he did at the end, but bad people do good things and good people could do bad things. I do believe that Bryan Kohberger, this is my opinion, was a good person that did something terrible in a desperate moment. So, I just don't want to impugn his integrity, because I haven't been able to find anything that backs it up. Guys, if I did, I would tell you. Okay. I would absolutely tell you. All right. Let me, we're going to get it. Let me see who else. Florence, tell me your questions. Your comments are welcome. Just please, I don't want to like impugn somebody who didn't do anything in relation to this case. Shelley said it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the judge completely, it was he completely sided with, um, for people who've been saying there's no evidence. I'm sorry, someone's misled you. There is evidence. And the proof is that Ann Taylor filed 13 motions to suppress the evidence. And the judge did rule against her. You can't take a shower now. You have to. Well, we have a lot to dig into. Mike says, one thing I still wonder is the front door was open. Yeah. Okay. So this is what I think. This is my theory, speculation warning. I think the front door was open. The neighbors reported seeing it. So I agree with what Mike says. We've heard this from multiple accounts. So what happened? Well, we know that BK went back to the crime scene that morning. I think he got, and we now know from this that Dylan saw somebody carrying what she interpreted. Remember, she had been drinking and it was dark, but she thought it was a vacuum cleaner. I don't know. I think it was a trash bag. I think a trash bag would be long and kind of hanging there with whatever was in the bottom. I think it was a bag, or maybe just a bag of some kind. Maybe not a trash bag, although the judge does talk about a bag when he was doing the hearings in one of the comments that he made. So I think she saw him carrying a bag. I think in her mind, in the dark, she interpreted that as a vacuum cleaner, and Taylor can use that to impeach Dylan on the stand if she wants to. But I think that when he was upstairs and he went into Maddie's room, he was not expecting to see Kaylee in that room. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. But I think he did not expect to see Kaylee in that room. And when he got in there, there was two females, not one. And I think it entailed more than what. Now, we've heard a lot about the roommates. Why didn't the roommates call 911? Well, just remember that Ethan and Xana were downstairs when this attack was occurring upstairs, and they didn't call 911 either. So I don't think these crimes sounded like what we thought they sounded like. Okay. But I think the door was left open. This is what I think happened. He went back to the crime scene. He had to. He knew he left that knife sheath behind. Now, he probably wiped it clean and was like pretty sure there was nothing on it. But, he wanted to be, nobody would want to be like almost sure. And it turns out there was DNA on the inside snap, touch DNA of that knife sheath. And maybe he needed it, maybe he cleaned it really well and didn't get every bit of it. So I think that front door was left open. What I think happened is that he would have gone back into the house, looked around quickly to see if he could see it. Of course, we know the knife sheath was underneath and to the side of Maddie. I'm wondering if that's when this Van's shoe print, we still don't know what size it is, and if it relates. Now, we know Ann Taylor filed motions. She wants the search of his Pullman apartment kept out. She wants the search of his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and what law enforcement found there kept out. The search of his office. She wants what the evidence law enforcement got from that to be kept out. She wanted the search of his car to get left out. So clearly there was evidence in this case. Okay. Because she wouldn't be filing motions to suppress the evidence if it was good for Bryan Kohberger. So I think, this is a speculation, I think that he went back in the house to try to get the knife sheath. This is where that Van's shoe print was left, probably. And then on his way out, he wouldn't have wanted to leave DNA, so he just left the door open and ran back out. The open door bothers me too. Yeah, I understand, Holly. Shelley says, I cannot wait to see all the evidence presented at the trial. I can't either, and we're going to watch it together as a reporter room community here on this channel. AZ says, it's only touch DNA. You don't really need it. Oh, I think juries love DNA. So I think the Ann Taylor's been fighting like crazy to get the DNA thrown out. And I think, the reason is because it's, damaging. Leslie said, I think there's a lot more evidence. Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's filing all these motions to keep the evidence they collected from his car, his house in Pullman, Washington, his parents' house, and his office to be kept out. And the only thing she said early on was that there was no DNA evidence found in his car. That was months. That was like a year ago. I haven't heard her saying that since then. So we'll see. Shelley thinks it's cousins, not the brothers. Yeah, it could be something as simple as that. But it just did catch my eye. And I thought, well, I don't know. Yeah, please welcome to Reporter Room, Shelley. I'm glad you're here. Lenora thinks it's Michael Kohberger's brother. So that's Brian's dad's brother. The top 4 distant matches are actually brothers to each other. Thank you for that. I just went through Blue Snarfing. Hopefully, I answered your question, Long Island Hillbilly. It's a good question. Christine said, I wonder if the Minnie Hoover DM saw was to collect DNA. No, I don't think it was a vacuum. So I know that's what she thought she saw. And Ann Taylor will be able to use this, right? She'll be able to use this to help impeach Dylan. But I don't think it was a vacuum. I think it was long, and she just, and he was probably holding it like this. But I don't think he was going around vacuuming. I think he was carrying a bag. And that he was putting things in. Trina, hi, good to see you. All right. His father has brothers. Okay, thank you for that, David. All right, so that's really helpful, you guys, to just know that it's probably his father's brothers and that it was just a misprint. Randy says, wasn't me. Hi, guilty. Okay. Yeah, please take a moment and subscribe. I am doing a giveaway when we hit to 40,000 subscribers, and it'll be done. You can learn more about the giveaway either in the comment section of my, or not the comment section, my post section on my channel, or you can watch the video giveaway. All right, so I need to go to what Steve said because we still have some more stuff to get into, but let me go into this next. All right. So Steve Goncalves sat down with NewsNation this week to discuss.
Especially with this incredibly earth-shattering news in this case, I can just see it on your face. This is such welcome news to you.
Yeah, this was a day that we've been looking forward to for almost 2.5 years. And it's kind of like the last Hail Mary that they were going for.
So can you guys hear this okay? I just want to make sure everybody can hear it before I play the whole thing. I had some sound technical issues last time. Put a yes if you can hear it. Yeah, Lenora says yes. Okay, so you guys can hear it? Okay. All right. So he feels like Ann Taylor, he's characterizing this as a Hail Mary on Ann Taylor's part. I've heard other attorneys also characterizing the motions that Ann Taylor filed as a Hail Mary to just dot every I and cross every T, because in the event that Bryan Kohberger is found guilty, there's going to be appeals after that.
Just throw it all out, put all the chips on the table and go for it. And we like the way that things turned out. We're going to go into the case with the same evidence that we started with, and that's amazing. That's a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying game, set, match, right? With that DNA evidence that ties what would have been a complete stranger right to the bed where your daughter was murdered. I mean, that is a hell of a bad fact for defense. Listen, the way it works is on their side of the ledger, Bryan Kohberger can cry into his defense attorney's shoulders and ask, what's next? What do we do? What happens? On your side of the ledger, it's the prosecutors. Effectively, they're your lawyers. Do they talk to you? Do they get you through this? Do they help you with the patience factor as you wait all these months for these decisions?
The communication, it comes and goes. I mean, I try to assume that they're just super, super busy, but I'm an active person, so I wouldn't find my own lawyer. I found my own prosecutor, my own person who understands law to an extent that they do even better than some of the people that are in that courtroom. So I feel like we're pretty much informed, and we're prepared for what's going to happen, and we're all working as one unit. And it's good to have days like this. You know, it took a long time, but you know, and people like Payne and Moyer, who literally were dragged through the mud, and people accuse those guys of lying or misrepresenting. You know, it's a great day for them. These are men that dedicated their lives to our community, and today is a day for us to all embrace that everybody's seen them doing a good job, and everything that they did will be part of the case, and all those challenges were invalid.
I agree with Stephen. I feel like not only were the law enforcement officers dragged by some people that were just, you know, well, you know, I'm not going to name any names, but, you know, not only was law enforcement dragged, but the roommates were dragged also. And I feel like I feel badly for Dylan and Bethany. I feel like they have been under this gag order. They've honored the gag order. They've never sold their story. They haven't gone behind the prosecution's back and given interviews. They haven't been letting statements sneak out about them. They've been very tight-lipped. They've honored, you know, everything that the judge has asked them in the, you know, when the gag order was imposed. They've never broken that. And I just feel like, you know, we should be showing grace to them because they haven't had a chance to tell their story. And I think we should hear what they have to say before we, you know, impugn their credibility. Just like with law enforcement, it was very painful to watch some bad actors impugn the integrity of Officer Brett Paynes and other law enforcement who put their life on the line to every day for other people. And, you know, their big crime was that they went out and found the perpetrator. Allegedly, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty, but found the you know, the perpetrator, the suspect, and brought him to trial. So I agree with Steve. And this is why I'm wondering if, I do think that Ann Taylor released Bryan Kohberger's mental and physical health records to the prosecution about 8 days ago. And I think she did this for mitigation purposes. And I'm just wondering if she did try for a plea deal and that the victims of the families were like, no, we don't want a plea deal. Because the problem with a plea deal, it's a double-edged sword. You don't have to go to trial, and your suspect gets put in jail. That's the positive you get as a family member if you tell prosecution, yes, please accept a plea deal. The downside is for the family members is that forever and ever and ever, there will be appeals. His sentence could be commuted, like we saw in the Scott Peterson case. He was convicted in a capital case, and then it got commuted to life imprisonment. And now we have the Innocence Project of LA that took up his case. And so, he continues to get press, and, Stacey Peterson's loved ones have to continue to speak out about this. So there's no end for the family members on this. So let's listen to what Steve has to say.
You were referencing that you went and got your own lawyer, that Shannon Gray. We've spoken to him a lot. He seems very invested and certainly very caring when it comes to yours and your family's benefit here. And, it's like you still want to know what else, like what still worries you. This is a great day. Obviously, this is the best day. But what still worries you ahead?
There's little pieces. If you read all through all the documentation, there's a lot of paperwork that came out today, a lot of details that weren't out. We look forward to that because there's details that we've had to hide, the things that we've had to keep to our chest. And the more that once they say it, then we can say it. We can bring more details out. And we said a kill kit. You're going to read those documentations. You're going to find out that this individual left that house and people spotted, these things that were going out with him. And we bring that up because.
Okay. So he just talked about something very interesting, I think. So let's take a pause on this for a second. I'll back it up a little bit so you can hear the whole thing in content, but he's talking about a KILL kit. And so that was probably what Dylan saw. So he said other people saw them. Is that what he said? Other people saw him going out the door with this? What?
That house and people spotted details that weren't out. We look forward to that because there's details that we've had to hide, the things that we've had to keep to our chest. And the more that once they say it, then we can say it. We can bring more details out. And we said a kill kit. You're going to read those documentations. You're going to find out that this individual left that house and people spotted, these things that were going out with him. And we bring that up because people.
Okay. So people spotted those things going out with him. We know Dylan said she saw something that looked like a vacuum cleaner in his hand. But Bethany is the one where we learned from the judge saw him dropping things into a bag. So Bethany's been really quiet under that gag order. So this makes me wonder if Bethany's testimony is not going to reveal that there was a kit. I'll just call it a K kit in case you have little ones in the room.
People spotted, these things that were going out with him. And we bring that up because people, please don't forget, this guy was not a part of our community. He was not a part of North Idaho. He's not even a citizen of Idaho. This person came here with a plan, premeditated, cold-blooded murder. And then he wanted to be a successful murderer, like a serial killer, somebody he studied. This is a sick individual that killed people sleeping in their beds. And there is no reason to have capital punishment if this isn't the case for it. So we're going to rely on all the people.
Okay, so we were all wondering how I really was, when I say family members were taking this, I think it's, there's 4 family victims involved, but I really did think a lot about Steve Goncalves and I'm just wondering if this was offered to him, if there was a plea deal that was offered to him, that the prosecution would have talked to him about it. They wouldn't have accepted it without getting the families on board. Let's listen one more time to this little bit. and just take it in. The fact that there's a K kit, that there was a kit that was brought and that somebody saw it. It had to be Bethany. That's what she saw. She saw a man at the door. And that's what the judge said, talked about her witnessing him dropping things into a bag. So Steve Goncalves knows more than we do. So there's a little bit of leakage here, which gives us some crucial clues, in my opinion.
Capital punishment if this isn't the case for
So
successful murder.
there's our answer. There's our answer. If they went to the families in the last week, and I'm wondering if this is why he's so hot about this today, or when he gave this interview a couple days ago, why he's so hot about this week in the last week is because he was offered that there was a plea deal that the defense team did try to negotiate. We won't find out until after the trial, but it sounds like there was. Let's listen to how hot he is about the idea of the fact that this needs to be a capital case.
With a plan, premeditated, full-blooded murder. And he wanted to be a successful murderer, like a serial killer, somebody he studied. This is a sick individual that killed people sleeping in their beds, and there is no reason to have capital punishment if this isn't the case for it. So we're going to rely on all the people in the true crime community, all the people watching this, because it's going to get.
That's you guys. He's relying on you guys. He's relying on all the people in the true crime community. That's all of us. That's you guys.
Rough. We're gonna have to put somebody all the way to the very ends of justice, but I think that's necessary. I feel like some of the reasons we have these mass shootings, school shootings and things, is because we don't do a good job of showing the very end of how this ends. And once kids see the full picture of what these disastrous behaviors are, maybe that puts a little bit in their head to slow down, think it through, talk to a friend, talk to a counselor, go to your school, communicate with somebody. Don't do this. Don't make one of these decisions where you take a bunch of people along with you.
Wow. Okay. That's I think we got some insights on that interview. Okay. I think he was approached. This is my opinion, so speculation warning here. I think I had wondered. I told you I thought that there was a reason that Ann Taylor released Bryan's mental and physical health records to the prosecution. She agreed for them to look at it, and I told you, and so did Scott. A Crime Talk. His video went up about an hour after I went live with this, and so his would have been well underway editing. So we both didn't know the other one was reporting out the same thing, but he's a criminal defense attorney. And he also reported out that he felt like, there was a plea deal that Ann Taylor was trying to get a plea deal. We won't find out until after the trial's over. But then we will find out if there was a plea deal. But just with how we learned a couple things from listening to Steve Goncalves. One, there was a kit that he had. Two, that there's a witness that saw him with it. At least one witness. I'm wondering if Dylan saw what she interpreted to be a vacuum cleaner, but it was actually, bag. And Bethany was able to make out maybe near the patio where there's doors where she saw somebody, according to the mirror. And also according to the judge's statement, she saw somebody putting something in a bag. So now we're learning from Steve that there was a kit, a K kit. I'm watching my words here. And we're learning just from how upset he sounds about capital punishment, that his feeling is that if this is not the case for it, if this is not the case for capital punishment, this is Steve Goncalves talking, not me. Okay. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. But if this is not the case for it, then what is? What is the case for it? Yeah, please consider becoming a channel member. You hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe, but also subscribe. Yeah, I think you're right, Top Cat. It sounds like the family members, in listening to Steve, it sounds like they did reject a plea deal. I thought it was going to be really, really hard to get Steve Goncalves and Christy Goncalves on board, and maybe some of the other family members too. And I don't know if, how on board with it the prosecution was, but I did believe when I told you guys what I think. This is just an educated speculation based in the fact that these physical and mental health records, which are protected by HIPAA, were released by Ann Taylor to the prosecution. The fact that she released those, tells me that there was some kind of mitigation going on. She could have released those, a month or two before the trial if she just wanted to use it for mitigation to appeal or to try to argue against the capital punishment case by using something in his mental health records or his physical health records. Okay. But I think that there's a reason why this happened at this point. And I think that, in my opinion, and especially after listening to Steve, I think that what we are figuring out is that the family members were not on board with this. I can't blame them. If I were a family member, I would not be on board with this either. Okay, let me go back to comments for a second. Thank you to Leslie, keeping it real, for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I am putting all of your super stickers, super thanks, anything like that, channel memberships, that's all going back into the channel. I am purchasing a second computer because I'm going to be streaming this trial, which means I need to have one. This computer's fussing. It's making fan noises when I'm airing it, running it, and I have used it. I go through computers pretty fast because of how edited and how much I stream. But the other thing is that I want this one to at least be working so I can edit on this one while I'm live streaming on the good one. So thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much to NJAZ for the gifted reporter membership. Thank you so much. And welcome to Zinab, who just became a Reporter Room channel member. So I think let's see what else. I have more stuff to talk about. Okay. So I do think that his arguments with his professors would have been, in my opinion, emotive. And I do want to show you my receipts on that too. I do want to show you that. Let me grab that. So this is my sourcing on this was Newsweek. About his motive, and also NewsNation, which I mentioned. But, this is talking about the sexist attitude that he had and that he was grading women differently from men. Now, this is not the only time that we've heard about Bryan Kohberger having issues with women. We heard about the Seven Sirens, right? And also his high school. But let me pull this up. His high school, he got kicked out of high school. But let me see if the New York Post will let me, because they're owned by the same owner as Fox News, and they've also been fussy about letting us share their stuff. It's thinking. Okay. It's letting me share it. Okay, yay. Okay. Let me grab this so I can share it with you. Okay, so in case you guys missed this is Bryan Kohberger harassed women at a Pennsylvania brewery. Okay, so this is before he moved. Let me make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Yeah, we are. Okay, so this is one of like many, many different things where I found where he's like had issues with women, including a high school thing. If you'd like, oh, nope. Okay, let me see if I can just continue. Okay, it's letting me continue. Last week it wasn't letting me. All right, yay. So my source on this is the New York Post. So several months ago, Kohberger visited the Seven Sirens Brewing Company, harassing women who work there. This is according to Jordan Searleneck. He told his sourcing on this was NBC News, and my sourcing on this is the New York Post. So Kohberger reportedly sat alone in the Seven Sirens bar, quote, observing and watching, and stood out for his interactions with employees and patrons. The brewery scans everyone's ID and has a system in which staff members can add notes or comments about a patron that will pop up on the screen whenever an ID is scanned. This is what Searleneck told NBC. I'm trying to see if I can get a first name on this. Jordan Searleneck. So he said, quote, staff put it in there. Hey, this guy makes creepy comments. Keep an eye on him. This is an exact quote. He'll have 2 or 3 beers and then just get a little too comfortable. End quote. So Kohberger would report, according to Jordan Searleneck, would ask women, or this is staff or customers who were in the brewery, and where they lived, and if the women weren't interested, he would get upset with them a little bit. So I'm wondering if he, and we know he went to the Mad Greek at least twice, right? So I'm wondering if he tried this with Maddie, Xana, or Kaylee. And maybe this combined with the November 12th incident with his professor, which I think would have enraged him to know that female students were saying he was grading them differently than men. To me, that's all played into why this happened on November 13th. Cyril next said he was forced to confront Bryan Kohberger during his final visit to the brewery. He said, quote, I went up to him and I said, hey, Bryan, welcome back. We appreciate your coming back. I just wanted to talk to you real quick and make sure you're going to be respectful this time and we're not going to have any issues. And he said that BK was stunned. He said, quote, he was shocked that I was saying that. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. You totally have me confused. He said that Kohberger stayed for one more beer and that he never returned. So this interaction happened months ago, and that he believes that Bryan Kohberger was a student at DeSales University, where he graduated in 2022 before moving to Pullman, Washington, to start his PhD program and work as a teaching assistant at Washington State University. Former shocked classmates remember Bryan as being an intelligent student in high school who was often bullied, but could in turn be bullied, could bully other people. They also said he struggled with medication addiction. I'm watching my weight here, and weight loss. So one of his former classmates, this is Sarah Healy, said it was bad. She said she remembers I was walking in the hallway. He stopped me and said, do you want to hang out? But Bryan was bullied a lot and never got a chance to say something to defend him, because I never got a chance to say anything to defend him because he would always run away. So that's very, very interesting. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. And if you're watching in the comment section below. Yeah, I do want to say thank you to our producers, Njaz, Sasha Angel, Mikey M, George Brown, and Pepper, and let you guys know this. Thank you for super thanks and coffee gratitude, and also for gifted memberships. If you received a gifted membership, please let your mods know and give them a thank. Let Njaz or Six Sense Amelia, who are the two mods who gifted those, to say thank you. And if you would like to be a channel member and have your name appear with a check mark next to it in all of our live streams, just click the join button. It's next to the subscribe button, and the subscribing is free. It's free. Whereas the channel memberships, I think it's a couple dollars. It's not much to become a channel member. So let me just take a couple questions and I do want to also go through what the judge said next, but let me take a couple of comments, questions. Come on up and talk to me if you're watching this. I do want to talk to you. Hey, Pen Jam. Top Cat says issues at work, more of a trigger for a plan. And after this, oh, by the way, after this, I'm going right into the Sebastian Rogers case. I did some digging, and I have some very interesting things to share with you guys on that. Very interesting to share on that. Including some receipts that Katie's not cooperating with law enforcement. So Terry says, I do not think Officer Payne was telling the truth when he said he doesn't know much where Mundy's machine in Moscow. Mundy's machine in Moscow. I don't even know what that means. You'll have to clarify that, Terry. But I don't want to defame anybody. BK was a bar creep, says Brother Mike. AZ says another creator pointed out that a K-bar could have somewhat resembled a couch cushion vacuum adapter. True, but she said vacuum, not adapter. So, but we'll find out more, AZ. That could be, you could be right. And that's why I love reading your comments, because I learned from you guys. He was red flagged. Yeah, it sounds like at the Seven Sirens, he was red flagged. I agree. Mike says if his dad is asking a neighbor to be his friends at 28 years old, if that's not weird. And Josh thinks it was weird. Mike thinks it was weird. Bill says BK was shocked because he couldn't understand how the owner knew what he had done, caught at a system by the bar. Yeah, he probably didn't realize that he may not have even been aware of how all of this was, impacting employees, and that there was like multiple complaints for him. He may just not have been self-aware enough to realize that not everybody believes this. But both of his sisters became licensed mental health counselors. Do you think that this has played into? Do you think the fact that they both are licensed mental health, if there was something going on in the house? Mike says the neighbor's wife knew he was a creep right away and didn't want him over. David agrees. Terry said, "What is Steve saying? Sounds an awful lot like stalking." Well, I've shared with you that the stalking statute in Idaho, thank you for sharing this, because I get the stalking question a lot in the comment section, and I'm trying to address it now in videos. But the stalking statute in Idaho is very, very narrow. The victim of stalking has to feel harassed or threatened for it to be considered stalking under the Idaho statute. Now, I've shared with you, I don't believe that these victims knew BK existed. I honestly think they did not know who he was. I think he did go to the Mad Greek a couple of times. He may have had a couple of interactions with Maddie, who worked there, Xana, who worked there, and Kaylee, who used to work there. But I don't think they knew he was existed. So thank you for that comment, Terry. Beth said, "It's been almost 50 years since I partied in college. I can see my alcohol-addled brain trying to make sense of what it is she saw. It is knife-shaped." Beth, we're going to find out more at the trial. I mean, I don't know what she saw. We haven't heard from her yet. They've been so good. Dylan and Bethany have been so good about obeying the judge's orders to have a gag order. They have not broken that gag order. So thank you so much for coming, being part of Reporter Room today. Hazel says a DNA forensic witness giving evidence at the hearing said that the family tree gleamed from the unknown DNA on the knife sheath revealed 4 brothers, but they were not Kohbergers. So brothers to somebody with the last name of Kohberger, right? Because we know it's paternal, and so I don't think Fox News would have thrown the name Kohberger in there. So maybe it's brothers of Michael, or maybe Michael's father. Yeah, so thanks for that, Hazel. That's really helpful. Leslie thinks BK reminds her of Ted Bundy. Mike says, Terry, yeah, but technically to call it stalking, the victims would have to know. Yeah, and that's an Idaho statute. It's not like that in every state, so I can really understand. I mean, we were all confused by that. I was confused too, which is why I looked it up. Had brothers and other distant relatives are under seal. Yeah, because we don't want to, the judge does not want to impugn the integrity of someone who's not involved in the case. Imagine if you had a relative that got arrested for doing something like this, and you had uploaded your DNA. Maybe it's an ancestor relative or somebody you don't even know them. It's like a distant family relative. Maybe it's a brother of somebody related to your grandfather that you don't even know them. I don't know all my grandfather's brothers. I met his 2 sisters, but I don't know all of his brothers. But I don't know them that well. But imagine if you uploaded your DNA and then you got dragged into this case. So there has to be some kind of probable cause. She said a vacuum thing. Yes, you are correct. We just don't know if she was interpreting a bag. We don't know what she was interpreting. We'll find out. And I think putting that together with what the judge said about Bethany allegedly seeing a man dropping things into a bag on his way out. Raina says, if we can't call it stalking, he was definitely creeping. Right. Let's say surveilling, watching, creeping. And that's where I think maybe this blue snarfing could come in. Now, Ann Taylor could use this to exonerate him, and the prosecution could use it to implicate him. So Leslie thinks, I think the sisters are both in it. He was stargazing. And just as a voyeur. Yeah, and we used to think that peeping Toms were harmless, right? We used to think that they were harmless. Now we found out that they are not harmless. Topkins said he could have followed the victims home from the restaurant where they worked to see where they lived. Well, I think it would have been very easy to figure out where they lived because of all the pictures that they took of themselves. And this is why you do want to be careful what you put online. We saw the picture of them. You know, that house was near the university, but we've seen the iconic picture of them, this one, of them at the house. You know, there were pictures of them online at the house. Well, guys, follow me over. I'm going to dig into the Sebastian Rogers case. I have some very interesting things to share with you guys there as well. I've been doing some digging, so follow me over there. I'm going to end this and I'm going to click open that one right now. And if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please consider subscribing and help this channel get